So it's finally that time, the time to count down the top 10 best sneaker releases of the entire year. And as you may have noticed, 2022 was a pretty insane year when it came to sneaker releases. We had some of the best releases that we've seen in a long time. Don't get me wrong, 2021 was also pretty great, but 2022 is pretty solid in and of itself. And there are sneakers that are on the top 10 list this year, which I consider to be some of my favorite sneakers in my entire collection, and will probably continue being some of my favorite sneakers in my entire collection for years to come. And I am stoked to count them down. Now I will say that this list is all my own personal opinion, and I feel like I shouldn't have to say that because you're watching this video on my channel, but I know once I finish this list, a lot of you guys will be commenting in the comment section, "Oh, why'd you put the sneaker there and that sneaker wherever?" I made this list based on my own personal perspective of the sneaker market and the sneaker culture, and some of the shoes on this list you may not have heard of before, other shoes you've definitely heard of before. It's all shoes that I think either made a huge impact on sneaker culture this year or were just dope overall. And yes, obviously my personal bias makes an appearance in today's video because, again, this is my list. So I like all these shoes for different reasons, and I like them. You can like them too, but you don't have to. But before we dive into the list though, today's video is brought to you by my brand Apothecary. And actually the drop that just went live when this video went live. So this collection is probably my favorite collection that we've ever dropped, and that's mainly because there's just so much stuff in this collection. Like this hoodie, the Pretty Much Broke black and white hoodie. You've got Pretty Much Broke written on the front of the hoodie. You've got Pretty Much Broke on the back of the hoodie. And then you've also got the embroidered Apothecary logo right there on the sleeve. It looks incredible. Plus the quality of this hoodie is absolutely insane. In fact, this hoodie is actually even better quality than the last hoodie that we dropped, which was also pretty great quality. And of course, the hoodie is not the only thing that we're dropping. We're also dropping a line of micro logo tees that come in 4 different colors. You guys may have seen me wear this shirt in previous videos. This is the vintage black color. We've also got a true black. We've got a white, which I'm actually wearing under this hoodie right here. Oh, no, I'm wearing the black one. I actually forgot which one I was wearing. I'm wearing the black one under the hoodie. Check that out. In addition to all of that, we've also got a full collection of socks dropping for New Year's Eve. They're the 23 collection because of course it's 2023. And the craziest thing about this collection is not just that they come in 4 different fire colors, but all of the 23s on all of these socks actually change color in UV light. The gray one definitely has the strongest and most obvious color change. It changes from a white to a dark purple. The other colors change to red or yellow depending on which color that you grab. And I personally love this collection because it's so clean and it's so simple, but it still hides a special detail in the 23, which you don't see unless you stand outside in UV light. So if you want to grab anything from this collection like the socks, the shirts, or even the hoodie, make sure to click the link at the top of the description below because the collection, like I said, is available right now. But now let's dive right into the list and start things off with number 10, the New Balance 990 V6. Yes, I completely understand that this isn't a hyped up silhouette. In fact, I'm sure there's a lot of sneakerheads out there who didn't even know the shoe dropped. But for New Balance fans out there like myself, the 990 line is one of New Balance's most iconic sneaker lines, and they only release a new version of that sneaker every couple years. And lucky for me, 2022 was the year that they introduced the 990 V6, and in my opinion, it's the best 990 ever. So there are a lot of reasons why the 990 V6 is the best 990 ever, and the first is obviously new technology. The V6 features new midsole technology, which actually makes it much more comfortable underfoot, and of course when you pair that with the ultra padded upper, the shoe is incredibly comfortable to wear all day. But for me, the thing that really gets me about the V6 is how clean this new silhouette is, especially when compared to the V5. The V5 was not a bad looking sneaker by any stretch of the imagination, but just looking at the V6, it features the retro inspired styling with a lot of modern hits that really make this sneaker a pleasure to look at. Plus, if you're really into New Balance collaborations like I am, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a hype beast when it comes to New Balance. This shoe is getting a lot of crazy collaborations in 2023, like the Action Bronson collaboration, which I've got to say looks crazy. So while yes, I totally understand why this shoe wouldn't make certain people's lists because this shoe isn't that hyped up, it's not that exciting for a lot of people, in my opinion, this is probably the best day-to-day shoe that you can grab right now. It's kind of like the workhorse shoe on this top 10 list. It can stunt when it needs to stunt, but most of the time, it's just doing its job, and it's one of the best shoes out there at its job, which in my opinion is just being a great all-around shoe. And I know I'm definitely biased towards New Balance because I love New Balance, but this shoe is fire and you should definitely try it out. And actually, if you do want to check out the V6, I've made sure to leave a pop-up to grab the V6 right in this YouTube video. Coming in at number 9 is the Zellerfeld Heron 01. So right off the bat, if you're not familiar with this shoe is crazy because it's fully 3D printed, all of the same exact material and all in one piece. That right there in and of itself is pretty crazy. But to give you guys some background on this shoe was printed by Zellerfeld, which is a printing company out, I believe, in Germany. They've worked with a lot of notable designers. I think they even 3D printed the boots that Kanye was wearing like a couple months ago. But this shoe is actually a collaboration with Heron Preston. Now the reason I put this shoe on the list wasn't because of how it looks, because I understand that this might not be the prettiest shoe for a lot of people out there, and I get that it's not the most wearable color in the world, but what really makes this shoe special is the concept and the technology behind it. So like I said, this shoe is fully 3D printed from the ground up with the same machine and using the same material and all in one piece. And what's crazy about that is that that different parts of the shoe feel different from one another. For example, the upper of the shoe, super stretchy, super soft, but when you move down to the midsole of the shoe, which again, made of the same material, printed on the same printer at the same time, all in one piece, the midsole is actually stiffer and still has some give, but feels completely different than the upper of the shoe. Now, the way that was done was by using different printing techniques and different infills on different parts of the shoe, but what's craziest to me is that not only is this shoe wearable, and I've worn this shoe for weeks, but also the fact that it's incredibly comfortable. Like, this shoe genuinely is one of the most comfortable shoes in my collection, and it's made of plastic, which is insane to me. Like, the upper is stretchy and soft, which is crazy. It features a pattern that you can't really get on any other kind of material, at least not without molding that other kind of material. The midsole of the shoe, while stiffer, like I said, is still very soft and very flexible, and what's even crazier is that this shoe was literally custom printed for me, not because I'm an influencer or anything like that. I actually scanned my foot in the app that they used to create this shoe, and then they created a custom version of the shoe for my exact foot. The technology in and of itself is absolutely mind-blowing, and you guys of course know that I'm a huge 3D printing nerd, especially if you've watched any of my many 3D printing videos, so it makes sense why I love this shoe so much. But in my opinion, this could be the future of footwear. I don't think it's going to take over footwear completely, but I think there's definitely a place for 3D printed footwear to be worn on a regular basis. Then at number 8 is the Nike Kobe 6 Mambasita. So this shoe is bittersweet for obvious reasons. This shoe was released in honor of Kobe and Gigi Bryant, and all of the proceeds from this sneaker sale went to the Mambasita Foundation. The shoe features Kobe and Gigi's names printed on the heel of the shoe in gold, as well as the number 2, Gigi's number, on either side of the heel. In addition to those details, the shoe comes in a black and white makeup, and of course is a Pro version of the Kobe 6. But this shoe is special for a lot of different reasons, not just because it pays homage to Gigi and Kobe Bryant, but also because we didn't think we were getting any more Kobes, and this just shows us that there might be some more in the pipeline. Now, unfortunately, I wish this shoe was mass produced and everyone could have had a chance to grab these shoes, but the way that Nike wanted to do things was make it incredibly limited, which is a huge bummer because there's a lot of Kobe fans out there who I know would love to have this shoe just to honor Kobe, because I know that he would want people to be wearing his shoes. And so in my opinion, I think Nike handled this situation the wrong way. I think they should have created a bunch of them, but that's just my own opinion. I'm sure they had their own reasons for making it an incredibly limited release, but either way, it's a very special shoe for two very special people, and not that it makes the loss any easier, but it definitely creates a really great way of remembering them. Coming in at number 7, we've got a double with the New Balance 9060 in both the Joe Freshgoods collaboration and also the Bodega collaboration. So initially I just thought about putting the 9060s on the list, but I felt like the Joe Freshgoods and the Bodega versions of those shoes were so much better than just the standard version of the shoe. They were the ones that deserved to be at the number 7 spot. The collaborations that are taking place on New Balance's silhouettes, and even some of the silhouettes themselves, are just so groundbreaking and so special and so interesting that it makes sense why New Balance is where they're at today. So the New Balance 9060s are sort of a mashup between the 990s, like the V6s that we just talked about, and a brand new style, a more lifestyle focused shoe. And because of the unique look of this silhouette, it really allows for some crazy collaborations, like the Joe Freshgoods collaboration, which was actually the first New Balance 9060 to drop. Man, Joe Freshgoods just kills it with New Balance, and the 9060s are just another example of him killing it with New Balance, and actually so is the Bodega version of the shoe. All of the 9060 collaborations feature some incredible materials, like, for example, on these Bodegas, this incredibly hairy suede on the tongue. But of course, the materials aren't the only reason why these shoes are on the list. It's also the color blocking. And like I said, because of the unique shape of the 9060s, it allows for a lot of different colorway options, like doing things that you couldn't do on other silhouettes because they just don't feature the same sort of paneling or details in the midsole. And I guess if I had to choose between the Joe Freshgoods 9060s and the Bodega 9060s, personally, I would take the Bodegas. But at the same time, the reason that the Joe Freshgoods are on this list is because they were the ones that made that initial push for the 9060s. They're the ones that caught everyone's attention, and they're the ones that I think really made this silhouette what it is. So that's why we've got two different colorways of the same sneaker on the list, because I just couldn't pick between them. I feel like they're both really great shoes, and you can't go wrong with either. Coming in at number 6 is Virgil Abloh's Louis Vuitton Nike Air Force 1 Low. So this shoe actually caused a pretty heated debate between Kais and Tony in Kais's video, where we all kind of got together and chose the top 5 sneakers of 2022. I didn't completely agree with the list, but hey, it wasn't my list. And as you guys can tell, because this shoe is on my list, I definitely think this shoe is worthy of a spot on the list. So to really get this shoe and understand why this shoe is so special, I feel like you've got to take a step back. Out of the hype, obviously this shoe is hyped because of the resale price and the fact that this shoe is almost impossible to get. But the reason that I put this shoe on the list is because this is a collaboration that I don't think anyone expected to happen. And when you think about it, It's wild. This is a collaboration between one of the greatest sneaker designers of all time, Virgil Abloh, one of the largest, oldest, and most prodigious designer brands out there, Louis Vuitton, and of course, one of the largest sneaker companies out there, Nike. And while yes, over the last couple years, there have been some crossover between designer brands and streetwear brands like Supreme and Louis Vuitton, it's never really hit a level like this. What Virgil Abloh somehow managed to do before his passing was take two brands that probably never would have worked together and created a collaboration that features the design aesthetic of one brand and the materials and quality of the other. Of course, Nike and Louis Vuitton. I mean, this is an Air Force One that's handmade with Louis Vuitton leather by Louis Vuitton. It's kind of like the Jordan Dior's, but almost on another level. And the fact that this shoe is released in so many different colors, ranging from like greens and blues that resell from around $5,000 to the Louis Vuitton check that you can only really grab for like $250,000 right now, means that this is probably one of the most influential and probably most expensive sneakers ever made. And again, not to let the hype kind of get in there, but I mean, it does have something to do with it. And again, this is one of the craziest triple collaborations out there. We're probably not going to see another collaboration like this in sneakers for a very long time. And of course, this is one of the last things that Virgil Abloh worked on before he passed, so it makes this collaboration that much more important and more special. Now, with all that being said, I never expect to be able to own one of these shoes. That's crazy money that it takes to own one of these sneakers if you're going to buy it for resale. And while yes, if I could grab it for retail, I would definitely do it. I just don't think that opportunity is going to arise. And it doesn't mean I can't appreciate the shoe just because I don't own it. It just means that I can enjoy it from afar and watch other people wear it and enjoy it, and not me. But that's fine. It's fine. Next up at number 5 is the Travis Scott Air Jordan 1 Low Reverse Mocha. So personally, if I was going off purely the looks of the shoes on today's list, I would have put this shoe higher on the list. However, honestly, this shoe isn't anything really that new. It's really just a different colorway of a collaboration that we've already seen a bunch of last year and the year before. Again, I think it's an incredible looking collaboration. I think the brown suedes that were used on the upper of this shoe and the white leather that was used to accent the brown suedes look amazing on the sneaker. And of course, you guys know I'm a sucker for the backwards Nike swoosh, but there's just not that much about the sneaker that makes it any different than previous Travis Scott Jordan collaborations. Negativity aside though, this shoe is absolutely fire, and it makes sense why it made a lot of people's top 10 and top 5 lists, because I mean, look at it. It's incredibly wearable, it's a very clean colorway, and we don't get a lot of cream and brown sneakers from Jordan brand. I mean, you gotta give it to Travis Scott. His collaborations are consistent. They always come in similar colorways. However, each shoe has its own sort of personality, and each shoe usually looks pretty great. Of course, this year there have been some misses in terms of Travis Scott collaborations, but this shoe is definitely not one of them. In fact, this shoe is one of the top 5 best sneakers of the year, at least in my opinion. Then coming in at number 4 is the Air Jordan 4 Military Black. In 2022, the Jordan 4 solidified its dominance as the most popular Jordan model of the year. I mean, it makes sense. The Jordan 4 is one of the most classic Jordan silhouettes, it's one of the most wearable Jordan silhouettes, and it's also one of the best looking. So when they start putting really clean colorways on this shoe and releasing only like 10 pairs per year, this shoe is going to be pretty hyped up. And based on resale numbers, it looks like the Jordan 4 Military Black is one of the most popular sneakers of the entire year. I think it's one of the most resold sneakers on StockX, which is crazy to think about because just on StockX alone, there's like 50,000 pairs of these that have been sold in just this year. Obviously, the shoes just came out, but still, that's a pretty massive number. And obviously, that's not just because this is an Air Jordan 4 silhouette. The colorway used on this sneaker, while very similar to the military blues, is a very clean and incredibly wearable colorway. I mean, the shoe is white, gray, and black. It can't get any better than that. I feel like this is one of those colorways on one of those shoes that no matter what the trend is, this shoe will always be trendy. You can always wear this shoe with pretty much everything. It's super easy to rock. It's also pretty comfortable too, especially when compared to something like the Jordan 1, which was the most popular Air Jordan of the last couple years. Plus, this shoe came at just the right time. It's an incredibly clean colorway that's not an OG colorway, but we haven't gotten too many OG Air Jordan 4s recently, so it kind of fills the void for a lot of people that would usually be filled by white cement 4s or fire red 4s or even bread 4s. I mean, it's the perfect example of a clean colorway on a classic silhouette. Plus, it wasn't that difficult to get, which is great, especially when it comes to sneakers these days, because sneakers are almost impossible to get, and it's nice to be able to win one that's this clean. Fortunately, though, the resale price has started to go up over the last couple months, and I think next year this is going to be like a $450 to $500 shoe. So that's unfortunate, but at least this year you had a chance to grab one for a reasonable price. Coming in at number 3 is the Air Jordan 1 85 Georgetown. Man, This shoe is awesome. I love this shoe so much. And while yes, this shoe was hyped up around the time of the release, I don't think that many people are still that excited about this sneaker, and I feel like it deserves way more hype than it's gotten. First off, as I'm sure a lot of you guys got from the name of this shoe, this is the 85 variant of the Air Jordan 1, which means that this shoe was designed to look just like the original 1985 Air Jordan 1. The panels used on the upper of the shoe are the same shape as the original shoe, the overall shape of the silhouette is the same as the original shoe, and even the midsole tooling has been changed to match the original 1985 Jordan 1. Now what's interesting about shoes that have been in production for 30 plus years, as time goes along, they slowly change, and if you compare the 1985 version of the Air Jordan 1 to like a 2021 version of an Air Jordan 1, you'll notice that there are some pretty major differences. So something the Jordan brand did that I absolutely loved is create the 85 line of their Jordan 1s, which brings back the silhouette to its original glory. It makes it look just like the original version of the shoe, unfortunately at a price premium, which I guess makes sense because it seems like the materials used on this shoe are slightly better than the standard Air Jordan 1s, but regardless, in my opinion, I think the price increase is worth it for the shoe that you get. So while the 85 version of the Air Jordan 1 is not new for 2022, I believe it first released back in 2020, the Georgetown colorway is actually new for the Jordan 1. In fact, this colorway has never actually been on a pair of Jordan 1s, at least not high Jordan 1s. I believe they were first created as a PE for Georgetown and then just never dropped. But what's crazy about this colorway is how much this shoe looks like it could have been an original Jordan 1. Plus, the leather quality of this shoe actually seems pretty solid. I mean, literally solid. It's pretty stiff leather. That being said, stiffness is not always an indicator of quality, and usually thickness and grain is the way that you can determine whether leather is better or not as good. And this leather seems to be much better than most pairs of Jordan 1s. And I mean, again, just look at it. It's beautiful. I can't get over it. Next up at number 2 is the A Ma Maniére Air Jordan 4. So James Whitner and A Ma Maniére are no stranger to top 10 lists. In fact, last year their Air Jordan 3 was number 1 on most people's lists. And it's crazy, but it seems like somehow they've had lightning strike twice, or maybe they're just incredibly talented. It seems like it's probably the latter. But regardless, the Air Jordan 4 A Ma Maniére is one of the cleanest, most wearable, and honestly, one of the most interesting shoes that have dropped all year. And to be fair, this is not the only solid A Ma Maniére Jordan collaboration that's dropped this year. We've also had the Air Jordan 2s, and at the end of last year we had the Air Jordan 1s, which were both incredible sneakers. But this 4 and the Air Jordan 3s from last year are some of the best collaborations that have ever taken place on their respective silhouettes. It's crazy to say, but it's true. So the inspiration behind this collaboration in particular are the black and brown leaders who are out there changing the world, which I think is a great inspiration. And the shoe itself features some incredibly quality materials. For example, you've got this really nice quilted sock liner on the inside of the shoe. The upper of this shoe features this beautiful nubuck material that comes in this sort of washed out purple, which I absolutely love. And then of course the entire look is rounded off by this black, cream, and maroon colored midsole. James Whitner and A Ma Maniére just have this way of creating shoes that look understated at first, but the more that you learn about them, the more interesting that they get. And not only that, the more that you look at them, the more that you're drawn to them. Like, this is one of those shoes that when I first saw it, I was like, it's alright, it's fine. But then actually having a pair in hand, I'm like, how did I not love this sneaker from the start? This sneaker is incredible. Plus, this is just one of those collaborations that has so many little details throughout the shoe that just make it that much more special, like the quote from Michael Jordan on the back of the heel tab, this little metal hit right there on the heel, which I don't really understand, but it has the A Ma Maniére logo on it and it looks great. And again, the incredible material quality. This shoe is just such a solid all-around sneaker, and of course, it's on one of the most popular silhouettes of the year, the Air Jordan 4. There was just no way this shoe couldn't be number 2 on the list. I think it could have been number 1, but number 1, at least for me, was just that crazy of a shoe. Nothing could have beaten it. But we're finally here. We're finally at the moment of truth, the sneaker of the year. We finally figure out which shoe has been on the top of everyone's mind for the entire year, at least on the top of my mind because it's my list. But this shoe is truly one of the best sneakers to release over the last 4 or 5 years. Coming in at number 1, the sneaker of the year, the Air Jordan 1 Lost and Found. So yeah, obviously this wasn't a surprise for most of you. In fact, this shoe has been on the top of most people's lists, but there's a reason why this shoe is so incredibly popular. And it's not just because this is a retro of the Chicago Air Jordan 1s, one of the most popular colorways of all time, on one of the most popular silhouettes of all time. It's the details and the story and the packaging that went into this sneaker that makes it as special as it is. Okay, yeah, Chicago 1s are always going to make someone's list because Chicago 1s are Chicago 1s. So yes, this shoe probably would have been on my list regardless, but for me, it's not because it's the iconic Chicago colorway or the Air Jordan 1, my favorite sneaker of all time. Again, it's because of the details that went into this shoe. So if you're not familiar with the Chicago Lost and Found or the Lost and Found Air Jordan 1 Chicagos or whatever the official name of the shoe is, the story behind this shoe is that this shoe was kept in a mom and pop shop for the last 30 plus years, and because of that, the materials used on the shoe has started to break down over the last 30 plus years, like the black cracked leather around the top top of the ankle collar or the white cracked leather on the toe or on the midfoot of the shoe. Not only that, you've got details like this embossed Air Jordan logo on the lateral side and of course the aged midsole. Everything comes together to create a package that really fits within the theme that they were trying to create. I mean, even the packaging that this shoe came in is amazing. It features a mismatched box and top. The top is orange, the bottom of the box is black, of course, because while shuffling around the back of the store, things got switched around and the box top got lost or something like that. It's got an old receipt, which shows the price of this shoe when this shoe went on sale. I mean, literally on sale. If you guys don't know the story of the Air Jordan 1, this shoe actually did go on sale the year after it first came out because there was just so many pairs out there and people didn't want them as much as they do now. And I mean, even the paper that was used to wrap this shoe feature old ads of Air Jordan 1s from back in 1985. Everything comes together to create this really well-rounded package that really weaves this incredible story of the Air Jordan 1. Now, the one thing I don't love, about this shoe is the fact that the story of this shoe is based around a mom and pop shop, which I've said in a lot of videos kind of seems like Nike is trying to phase out just because most of their sales are online and they have much higher margins online. So this release definitely has some ironic undertones, but that doesn't take away from the fact that the packaging for this shoe, the shoe itself, and the story that they're trying to relate, ironic or not, is all incredible. And I think this is definitely sneaker of the year for all those different reasons and is probably one of the best Chicago Air Jordan 1s to ever release. While yes, the 2015 version was awesome, this one is just so much more interesting than that pair. So yeah, for me, this is sneaker of the year. Let me know your sneaker of the year in the comment section down below. And once again, if you want to check out the brand new Apothecary collection that just went live, make sure to click the link in the top of the description below. And as always, I'll see you all in the next one.